The past decade of internet access has brought about many revolutions and upheavals in society. And for those of you in Capuland, one of the more notable ones has been the rediscovery, amassing, fine-tuning, and creation of an amazing array of masculine wisdom, philosophy, and empiricism. This amazing array has manifested itself into what we roughly refer to as the Manosphere, and has, truthfully, saved the lives of what I estimate to be millions of young men and women. The founders of this philosophy, frankly, had to build it not only from scratch, but through trial and error, with no ability to compare notes across the world via the internet, and all while operating under the false premises various political and social forces have forced on society through decades worth of propaganda, and while having no clue whether it was them or the world that was insane. This resulted in an enormous mental, psychological, emotional, financial, and physical toll paid by these founders, entailing anything from being shot down by over thousands of women just to prove a correlation, to wasting their youths on worthless degrees and careers. These men spent decades of their lives exploring this new sociological and psychological frontier, laying the groundwork and mapping it out so that future generations would not only be able to navigate it successfully, but be spared the pain of having to learn it for themselves. Normally, these founders would be called visionaries, pioneers, revolutionaries, and leaders, and many of you have been kind enough to bestow upon us those humbling titles. However, the truth is that we aren't so much visionaries or pioneers as much as we are guinea pigs, and there's a lesson to learn here. Previous to the internet, it was nearly impossible to overcome and override society's media, governmental, and educational institutions. They had a monopoly on the information network by which nearly all data, thoughts, philosophies, and theories were disseminated to society. This made any development of a counter-theory very difficult because you had no idea of the sheer volume and omnipresence of lies that were being told and maintained. Ergo, if you started trusting your eyes and said, I think Western girls are batshit insane," or, "These baby boomer-led corporate American employers seem to be a racket," society would come crushing down on you, calling you a misogynist or not a team player. This caused an inordinate amount of mental torture as what you were witnessing with your very own eyes conflicted with what society was screaming at you. Not only did this make advancing and achieving success in life nearly impossible, i.e. doing what society demanded always led to failure, but if you dared to question society, they would ostracize you and ensure you paid a price. Still, for some, the insanity and lack of success was invariably too much to bear, and with absolutely no success, and therefore nothing to lose, some truly bold and desperate men started rejecting society, risking the ostracization, punishment, and pain society constantly threatened. Sure enough, since they were basing their decisions in reality, they started finding success in life. More of them were getting laid. More of them were starting successful businesses, and many of them starting to find true happiness in life. But you must understand, however, just what a Herculean and ballsy effort this was pre-internet. There was no way to confirm whether they were on the right track until they threw away convention in their entire lives to take this risk, all in the face of screaming opposition. These are the true pioneers and Daniel Boones of our time. Then came the internet. Even with the internet, it still took a decade of testing, note comparison, and wandering in the desert to slowly but surely crystallize the laws, theories, wisdom, and philosophies we have today. But sure enough, just like the pioneers of 30 years past who dared to question convention in the 80s, these internet pioneers of the past 15 years achieved the same. They dared to believe their eyes, they dared to think independently, and they dared to give a lying society the finger. And now, for the first time since the 1950s, they not only had the answers humankind previously spent millennia discovering, but with the help of the internet were disseminating it to the masses. And because of all that, nobody from here on into the future has to endure that hell ever again. Naturally, you may look favorably upon these pioneers. Roosh, Royce, Rollo, myself, Tom Lakis, Cernovich, Molyneux, Paul Elam, and the many others who laid this foundation. You may even view us as dad or the older brother you never had, which we are humbled for. But the truth is, we were just a bunch of guys that were sick of it, had nothing left to lose, and decided we weren't going to go off quietly into the night. We're no different than you, we just happen to have been born before you were. Ergo, it is a vital and important lesson that every reader in the Manosphere, alt-right, neo-masculinity, etc. needs to learn, that you should not be aiming to become like us, but you should be aiming to improve upon us and surpass us. and not just by a marginal amount, but by leaps and bounds. The sheer decades of time, labor, money, and mental resources that you will save learning from the wisdom that has been unearthed is astounding. First, consider education. If it were up to previous generations past, you'd be stuck in a viscous, progressive credentialism black hole, earning your doctorate in 14th century transgendered Latino sculpture studies that not only would sap you of all your youth until you were darn well near 30, but condemn you to financial servitude until you were 60. The sheer savings on this alone would be $100,000 in wasted tuition and 20 years in wasted life. Second, courting, dating, and marriage. The amount of mental pain and anguish young men suffered in the 70s through 90s, thinking there was something wrong with them when the girls they were trying to date stood them up, threw temper tantrums for no reason, sperm-jacked them, played mind games, and a limitless litany of other psychologically draining psychotic bullshit is incalculable. But imagine how much pain and agony would have been saved if at the age of 14 young boys weren't told, "It's your fault if the girl's unhappy. Just be yourself. Maybe you attract the wrong type of girl." But instead, we're just simply told, most girls are batshit insane, love drama, and need a strong man to stand up to them. Hundreds of billions of hours of psychological pain across hundreds of millions of men would have been spared. And this doesn't even include the incalculable savings young men are spared today being fully warned about the risks of marriage, divorce, alimony, cuckoldry, and child support. Again, you add in the 2 decades and $100,000 you saved yourself not majoring in the stupid subject, the $500,000 in alimony and child support, not to mention another decade of your life wasted, you're $600,000 and 3 decades ahead of your contemporaries. Third, economics, specifically minimalism. While society and convention is pushing you to get that $100,000 liberal arts degree followed by a $50,000 car, a $600,000 McMansion, and a wife and children who are likely to beget an additional $100,000 in lifelong credit card debt, the wisdom of the Manosphere tells you it can all be replaced with a used car, a skilled trade, a cheap studio apartment, a used motorcycle, and a network of loving, caring people. I'll say it again for the cheap seats. The most important thing in life is other people. And once you realize that, you can save yourself an easy $500,000 in lodging expenses, $100,000 in lifelong car expenses, $100,000 in credit card debt for crap you don't need, not to mention find yourself a decent quality girl instead of a psychopath with tits and a spending problem attached to it. There are certainly many more ways the wisdom of the Manosphere will save you time, money, and psychological pain. But if you add it all up, it is amazing the leg up you have over your pre-internet predecessors. Well over $1 million in lifetime financial savings. Well over 50 years of your life not wasted. And the psychological pain you've avoided is as priceless as it is immeasurable. It is from this enviable position, assuming you take the time to study, understand, and incorporate this knowledge into your own lives, that you can blow past all the pioneers and visionaries who founded this philosophy and leave us in the dust. If you play your cards right, you'll make more money than we do, save more money than we ever will, work a fraction as hard, endure a fraction of the psychological pain, slay more ladies, and live happier and better lives than we could ever imagine. You will also be able to advance the philosophy, and thus the progress of men, as well as women, to heights we founders will, unfortunately, not be alive to see. But that in itself will be such an intellectual treat, I predict that it will make your lives all that much better. The most common lament I hear from my colleagues in this world is, "Had I known back then what I do now." But for you guys, it's not a lament nor a regret. It's a reality if you choose to accept it.